I welcome you all once again. It is my great honor to introduce our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. P.K. Mohammad Imran Sir, Associate Professor, Department of Chemistry, Islamia College, Autonomous, Maniambadi. Sir did his doctorate in General Chemistry, Tiruvallur University, Vellore. Sir completed his MPhil in Chemistry, University of Madras. He completed his Master of Science in Chemistry, University of Madras. Sir has awarded for Young Scientist Fellowship in the year 2000. Sir has worked for various community service and outreach, and he is secretary for RUSAC, Rural Society for Advancement of Chemistry, an umbrella for the entire district students to promote science and counselor for students of adopted town under NSS, technical advisor for multimedia classroom for various institute, project advisor for environment protection related project, advisor for science fairs. Sir is also member in Board of Studies, Examination Panel and IGNO. Sir has published 21 papers and a special area of interest in research such as chemoinformatics, analysis and data mining of small molecule in a variety of biological and environmental systems, spectroscopic techniques, etc. The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation. I thank our resource person for accept our invitation. Now I request our guest speaker, Dr. P.K. Mohammad Imran sir, to take over the session.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Now it is time to invite to our chief guest, Dr. P.K. Muhammad Imran, Associate Professor, Islamia College, Vaniambadi, to deliver a speech on a chemoinformatics. Thank you, sir.
Good morning to one and all. Can you hear me?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, we are hearing, sir.
Okay.
Can start, sir.
Okay. So, very good morning to one and all, and I thank the management of the NKGC and all the team for giving me an opportunity to present something about the chemoinformatics. Here, I'll divide my presentation into two parts. One, what is the present scenario of drug discovery, and two, the methods available for particularly for the chemists. So in chemistry we have a lot of options. Nowadays we have got pandemic, and by using a good PC we can do a lot of works, and people are doing a lot of modeling works using the computers also. So I'll just start my PowerPoint presentation and let you know what we can benefit from this. Chemoinformatics and aid in drug discovery. At first, the introduction. Chemoinformatics is also known as some theoretical chemistry by using techniques which we call it as in silico. So this is completely different from in vitro. So that is, in the in vitro we use glass That is here it is in silico. So here we can use in vitro. In vitro means it is in glass and it is for the lab. So in vivo is there, it is directly on the lives. So bio experiments are there. And the methods used have various incorporations. Like for example, this is another definition which says that we can use computer programs to facilitate the collection, storage, analysis, manipulation of large quantities of chemical data. There is often some confusion between what is bioinformatics and what is cheminformatics. The difference is not much. We have small molecules in chemistry. We consider this as ligand and we take it as a drug. And in biochemistry, bioinformatics, we use the large molecules such as the DNA, RNA. And with small molecules, we find out the reception, we find out the interaction, we find out the type of non-covalent interaction between this. And the maximum, the solution for all this is based on the quantum chemistry. Some softwares have been devised. So I will let you know the softwares that are there at the end of the session. Here is what we have, the observed data. Usually we consider data as something connected with computers only. It is not so. All our notes in chemistry is the data. Notes in chemistry is data. For example, if you look at the periodic table, you have got systematic arrangement of all the elements with increasing radii, with increasing polarizability, with increasing dipole moment, all those things are there. All this data collected together is given as a periodic table. So that is the real representation. So finally, if we have some nodes, we underline some points, and we get the information. So with the knowledge of chemistry and information from all over the world, we develop a library, and then we go for drug discovery, which is the ultimate aim in medicine. So in between, you have got computer science and side effects, biology, and text mining. Text mining, just remember it. If I find time, I'll just tell you that in the end. But here, as per our topic, I'll be telling about the lead analysis. Here you can see the first venture into computational chemistry was given by Walter Kahn and John Haeckel, who were awarded the Nobel Prize in 1998. Later in the year 2013, we had Karplus, Levitt, and Warshall for further development into density functional theory. So this led to the development of computational chemistry. Here is a look at what we have. Big data, your notes, any information that you want to collect, but you are not getting into what to do with it. In the engineering, they use it as nanomaterials, superconductors, quantum dots. In physics, they use it for spectroscopy, molecular mechanics, and quantum mechanics. Mathematics has remained the queen of science, and we use a lot of things such as statistics, important nowadays, matrix methods, and functional differential equations. Then we have biology, we call it as bioinformatics, and then we have medicine, which we use drug design and modeling. And then finally we have, with chemistry, we have the molecular mechanics, semi-empirical, ab initio. Ab initio means from the beginning. DFT means density functional theory. In the density functional theory, we do not consider the spin of the electron.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So here it is that I told you about the beams and finished just this. Oh, I was just telling about this in chemistry. So here comes the use of computers. We call it as the cheminformatics. We are using computers besides experimental and biological data. And this is the thin line that we always like to draw. Here we just stand for something here, molecular dynamics. That is, you just can call it as nano drug, or just call it as a biodrug, whatever it is, that scale is there. So you can just have a look at it. Here is the interface between the cheminformatics and bioinformatics that I always wanted to highlight. So here in drug discovery and development, first we have to identify the disease and then isolate the protein involved. For example, in our present COVID-19 case, there is some S1 and S2 protein there. Then find a drug effective against this. It takes 2 to 5 years. This is the chemical part. You can take any existing drug, for example, aspirin or paracetamol, and just modify the derivatives there. So that is there. Okay, that we call it as the preclinical testing, and then find a drug effective against some the diseased protein, particularly by using mice, rabbits, monkeys, and all those things, and then investigate a new drug by filing them, and then human clinical trial takes up. There's the new drug administration is there, and then finally it is approved after 2 to 3 years. But how it has impacted now is identify a disease, isolate the protein. Within that, you have this genomics, proteomics, and bioform is work by biochemists. Here we have that high throughput screening. We analyze the drugs there. We do a virtual screening. By virtual screening, we mean something which we do using the computers. I'll tell an example. Find a drug. All these things we call it as the combinatorial chemistry, because it combines theoretical, thermodynamical, statistical, computational, all those things. And then use this molecular modeling. And then it goes to glass, tube, and then absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. So that is how we have speeded up the drug. Here I'm just telling where we are stuck. That is the lead optimization. Lead is a word from which we can hear about the leadership, something which has to lead. So lead optimization means, you may have so many, for example, if a powerful engine is there, how much miles it should give means, it is a maximum. But under very good conditions, it should be giving you efficient, that we call it as the optimized. So in chemistry also we should have that. That way we have to build a database for researchers to share their biological data and observe how they interact, collecting data from various geographical locations and creating personalized medicines. Personalized medicine is nowadays a hit, because for some drugs act, for some they do not act. So we leave this target validation to the bioinformatics, and we go for the lead identification here. So this is it. Some molecules are there, some ligands are there. Then we just change the derivatives here at this particular place. Suppose if you have H here, you can substitute Cl, Br, I, and then. Now doing this in the lab is very difficult, but using so many softwares, we can just change them, and we call them as search algorithms. And then after establishing a few derivatives, we often use derivatives from spectrochemical series. After using some derivatives, we go for something we call it as the scoring functions. The scoring function, you might have heard at several places, is nothing but just a delta E, delta H, or entropy. Any energy that is released as a result of binding. Anything we take, some amount of energy is released, so that we call it as the scoring function. And this is the workflow. Target protein is there. I'll give an example. You have to remember what target protein should be. Then our compounds are there. For example, you can take benzimidazole derivatives and use them for docking. Docking, you might have heard, this is some good protein is taken. Almost all our biological functionality depends on the proteins. So we dock this protein with the desired ligands. I'll show you in the coming slides, and then find out the ligand scoring. And then we have so many things to do. This is the bioinformatics part. So after this, we have chemical first. For this, they often take up 200,000 molecules and then filter them and then find out two potential. And here is what our job is, chemoinformatics. Within a scaffold of about 2000 molecules, you find out how many important things are there. So here is what we require, a knowledge of chemistry. Often people think that drug discovery, theoretical chemistry is all not connected with us, but it is not like that. It requires a very good knowledge of chemistry, particularly electron donating groups, electron withdrawing groups, dipole moment, and all the, we call them as the descriptors. And then that is how again the steps are there. So here in our present case, the COVID virus, we have crossed phase 1, in which 20 to 30 volunteers have been checked for the coronavirus. It is under phase 2 now, which has been successful, where some more volunteers who come up voluntarily to offer themselves as their body for their body for any kind of test by overlooking and agreeing to go through the side effects. Then this is the phase which we are undergoing, and it takes about 2 or 3 months, and then we have this phase 3 in which we give to about 1000 to 2000 patients. So this process has been stood up very fast. This usually preclinical testing is very fast, and with the help of computers, I have read that many supercomputers are nowadays involved in modeling the COVID. So here a big picture is there. I'm just confining myself to chemistry, chemoinformatics, virtual. And I mean, after this chemoinformatics, we have natural products. Of course, natural products means, so many Ayurvedic products, many products are there. They have been there in our India without any good side effects. So what people do is take up the herb, extract it, characterize it, find out the functional group, and then go through this combinatorial chemistry, submit it to the library, and then later test it in the animals. So here is what we call as we take some lead. For example, if I take 4 derivatives of some drug, I come up with iodo derivative as something which is having very good efficiency. So I call it as a very good lead drug. Then the entire process, we call it as the computer-aided drug designing. And this is the relationship mainly via structure-activity relationship. What is the structure of it? It is something like a key and lock mechanism. We have often seen key and lock mechanism, how a suitable key alone goes into the lock. So I'll explain that also. And then within the several modes of working, we do this with receptors only, which is a good receptor inside the body. If any drug goes inside the body, where does it sit? It doesn't sit in the DNA, it doesn't sit in the nuclear receptor, percentage is very low. It doesn't sit, for example, if you have a lot of bromine water, that is seawater, we call it as brine, ion channels will be intercepted, but others will not be intercepted. But if we have some infection, it is usually stop using receptors. So 45% of them are within greater protein coupled receptors. And then here about 11% we have hormones. So these hormones are affected by some chemicals, like for example, pesticides and insecticides. And then most of them, second part is 28. So we need to know the structure of enzyme or structure of the receptor to find out how our molecule interacts. So this is a job of a chemist, and this can be done by using any ordinary personal computer. We call it as candidate ligand, and then we evaluate online. You can evaluate it: absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, and toxicity. Then we have got similarity searching. How many drugs are similar? For example, if you can see aspirin, it can be used as vasodilator, it can be used as therapeutic use, it can be used against fever. So it has got so many things. So you have to select out preliminary, then go for 3D pharmacophore. Pharmacophore means any derivative that is responsible for drug activity, like chromophore. Chromophore, chrome color, phore color attracting. So chromophore, pharmacophore, like that. So then you have to predict activity. Then you have structure activity models that are several models of them. You go for docking in the drug discovery. Here is a list of some derivatives that we can often substitute. Usually this is an existing drug and we substitute R here by means of methyl, hydrogen, again methyl, and then you change this also. So keep on changing and measure the biological effective concentration about 50. This is a biological quantity. It can be easily done by lab using beef extract and Escherichia coli and so many other things. So you can see people taking up a lot of derivatives. So you can just keep on changing the derivative and find out the efficiency of a drug. For example, if some drug is not effective, for example, if in the case of dexamethasone, which has been considered as a very good steroid drug in the present COVID cases, if it varies from region to region, if that is it is not effective in a particular region, you can just change one hydrogen here and put your R here. R must be any other thing like the isopropyl, phenyl, methyloxyl, and so on. So you have a lot of derivatives at a lot of places, and then you get this something called as the R value. R value, we have often seen that we ignore the statistical methods. In MPhil, we have one statistical paper. Roughly speaking, there are two methods. One is the direct mechanism involved in drug activity. Second one is the statistical methods. You have 100 patients, you give them some drug, 60% recover, then it is a successful drug. So that is statistics. You don't know what happens to the drug, how it works. You don't know any mechanism. You just give it blindly, and then you find that 60 to 70% of them are successful. Then you bring them to the market. For that, they do this regression constant analysis. So it is useful. So presently, you might have seen that in India, we have predicted the peaking of the COVID-19 drug when COVID disease going into September. So after September, they are expecting a slowing down. How? They have built this model, then using the regression analysis, they have come to that particular conclusion. So any basic thing about statistical methods is a very good thing for you to go in future. Again, this is the same thing. So many drugs are there. You can see how it is 100% successful. I'll skip this also. And I'll just tell what happens in the absorption part. Because absorption and toxicity, these two things go hand in hand. And this part, we often think as it is not very useful. We have done this particular thing called as distribution coefficient. In third year chemistry, you have got a distribution coefficient experiment in which we take up the distribution of iodine layers between organic and aqueous layer. What do? We take some two layers, organic and aqueous layers, right? Two layers are there. This is aqueous layer, this is organic layer. Put some iodine there, shake it vigorously, and then after some time see how much iodine is distributed in the aqueous layer, how much iodine is distributed in the organic layer. That means if I take some drug, I put it through the stomach, and using this bile duct, how much drug is delivered to the blood? We drink it with water, any drug, it should be deliverable. It should be delivered to the blood, only then it will go and work. If it is not delivered to the drug, it will not work. So you can see how simple physical chemistry experiment like distribution coefficient, which you call it as KD, and I got a value of 80 for iodine, is being useful in biological distribution also. Our drug is organic in nature most of the time, organic molecules are there, and it has to be distributed from one organic part to another organic aqueous part, then only it will function. So after a function, functionality, how much toxic it is there, that is what we have to study. So this particular part involves something like analysis of that. So an example is there. This is isocoumarine. So you have an organic molecule there, and then this is the receptor there. Here is the receptor. This is nothing but a kind of protein, and this has to go and sit there. If it is a lock, this one is a key, and we call it this as a receptor and this as a ligand. So ligand tagging is, if you just take it, sometimes what we have to do is find out the space. You can see this is a large protein molecule having lot of space, lot of twists, lot of interaction, non-polar parts, polar parts. So I'll tell about something more into that, how this drug goes and sits there and affects the functionality of that. Particularly, affection is done by means of this small hydrogen bonding. We often ignored hydrogen bonding. We have often ignored electrostatic interactions. We often ignore halogen bonding. But this is how they are being held together. This is covalent bond, but this is a non-covalent bond. If you have them in hundreds and thousands, so many things can take place. So this is again the strategy. You protein database from the files are there. Okay, I'm not telling you to that, but I'll go to the next important part. That is the, here you can see this organic molecule here. Okay, this is the derivative that is there. What has happened here? Why I'm finding so many lines? The lines is that if you have a particular angle, like for example 120 degree here, I'm just changing it to 121, 22, 23, 24. Every change in the angle results in a conformer. Every change in the angle results in a conformer. That is, in fact, a kind of isomer. And then we have to find out what is the energy release as a result of that. So that was very well brought out by this Ramachandran plot. It also forms the part of the, it's a very famous plot. Ramachandran plot involves bond length, bond angle, and torsional angle, finding out the energy released. You can study separately about this. It's an internationally essential phenomena produced by our own Ramachandran, and it gives you how many things are changing and what is that. So this particular part is the change in energy. Here, any change does not produce any change in energy. That means if we have an isomer, it will be effective. Just like glucose and fructose. Glucose can cause diabetes and fructose does not cause it. Then these are all some examples how ligands have bound into that. I am coming to a very important angiotensin receptor, which is in the picture nowadays, ACE2, angiotensin converting enzyme. This is the receptor where the coronavirus goes and sits very exactly. This is found in lungs very much. The structure has been evaluated. They have found the structure. And what we have to do is we have to cover this place so that the coronavirus doesn't go and sit there. But unfortunately, what happens is the virus structure, which I'm going to show now, keeps on changing its structure, and even a slight change in the structure nullifies the reception. So let's see how that one that is there. ACE2 receptor is there. So we have seen this. This is what we call it as the spike. I think you know about this. This is spike in the virus, right? So that structure is this spike. It goes like this. So this is it. Okay, this is spikes having a structure like a hook. It is like this. So it goes. This is a virus structure. It goes and attacks directly into the angiotensin receptor like this. This particular part goes and attacks like this. So as soon as it attacks, it makes a very good non-covalent bonding. With hundreds and thousands of non-covalent bonding, it makes a very good structure. This is a protein that is found in the lungs only. So lungs are very good place. That is why people suffering from coronavirus have got the lung infection. You can see the structure of that is about 34,450. Molecular weight has been calculated. Everything is known. unique protein chain is just only one. And then here you have that reference where I am taking is this particular presentation. It was done in research on 25th March, and they have got it as like this. So this is the spike which we often see in that. And here is a particular company has done this. Look at this. This is the receptor, ACE2 receptor. Okay. And this is the drug. Now this drug has to go and fit. How they have modeled it, and I'll just display it here. Can just note the drug coming inside, going up and down, going to all the conformations. At every step, the drug knows energy is calculated, delta G. So it slowly then it enters, the drug enters, and it is not allowed to sit. We have to find out where it sits effectively. Here it is there. You can see this. At this particular place, the drug sits. So the green part, the red part represent negative charges, and the blue part represent the negative charges. So the drug is produced by a company called Accelera. They released this video, and I found it very good. I want to just show how the drug can go inside. And at several positions, they calculate the energy. That position is taken as most effective where more amount of energy is released. So that is it. So as soon as it happens, this is the case similar with the HIV virus also. It goes inside, it uncovers it. Once it encloses itself, it starts multiplying. So this is it. This is a particular drug sitting inside Pratele. All this is modeled using my own computer. And here it is, inhibits. In the first part, see, for example, one of the mechanism of action of drug is, for example, an antibacterial drug. We have got folic acid. Folic acid is produced in some receptors. So if this folic acid is taken up by the bacteria, it grows. So what we have to do, we have to stop the production of folic acid. How do we stop the production? We find out where folic acid is produced. The structure comes, and then we deposit an outside chemical there. It gets locked there itself. So folic acid is not produced. Bacteria do not get the food. As a result, the bacteria die. In the case of virus, it is not the case because bacteria is a living organism. Virus is just like a protein. The body, whether it has got life or not, it simply starts multiplication and it destroys. Then it induces an immune response that destroys the lung. To find out how many proteins are there in the database, you can always go for this particular website where you have National Center for Biotechnology Information Advance. Then this is the place where I have downloaded so many things. So many sites are there. And then what you have to do, some statistics. This is our project. Go to that site also and find it out. How they analyze. This is the flowchart, data access, transformation. And then you have visualization softwares up there. So many visualization softwares up there. Now, I would request you to find out what this is. KNIME. KNIME is a free software which has got some interface like that. We have a lot of information from chemistry, from physics, from biology. So everything that you get, you can simply type them down, note them down. And when you ask this program to return significant numbers, significant data, it just simplifies it. It is like you give a textbook and ask your teacher to give important notes. So everything that you note down, you can just note it down like this, notes, and then finally ask this. It will give from thousands of things. It can give you very good results. So Naim was initially paid software, but it is very free. It can be used by any student, irrespective of discipline, that is whether it is a science, commerce, or whatever it is. It simplifies. It gets meaningful data. That is why it is. I'm just so that is also there. So this is the R square test. We have done close to 715. So many tests are done using that. And here is my initial work that I did using nitrous oxide. This is called as the laughing gas. Laughing gas, how it has got its influence. Test 1, test 2. Using an ordinary desktop computer, I did this work and published it in Elsevier journal. So here is what the fragmental rules are there. You cannot just substitute at every place. So you can see how slowly you can substitute A, B, and what are the donors that you can be: cyanopyridines, azipines, indazole, pyridines, pyrimidines. Very good class of compounds. Simply you can substitute them and get lot of them, and then calculate the molecular descriptor. Any descriptor is something like a log P, molecular weight, connectivity index, and then the computer, it takes up every C, CS, CC as some binary number. It erases, and that is also called as a molecular fingerprint, and it is stored like that, and therefore it becomes very easier for any calculation. You want to combine these two, it will be just the binary addition. We call it as the chemical fingerprint. The advantage is that you can use some simple formula like SMILES. SMILES is a simplified writing of a long structure, simplified molecular input line entry system that uses this particular thing. So you can choose molecules with acceptor, donor, hydrophobic, or even without anything. So this is some basic molecule like C7H5N. How you have that, all those things are there. I'm skipping this also, but I'm coming to the main part of this cheminformatics. We have to do geometry optimization. Geometry optimization means, if you have a molecule like this, CONH2, then I have to write it in the exact orientation. Like this, double bond orientation will be like this, H will be like this, and H will be like this. A proper bond angle within the light of chemistry, proper torsional angle within the light of chemistry, proper bond length within the knowledge of chemistry. All these things it does, calculates the minimum energy. That is what we call it as the optimization. So the first software which you use is MOPAC. It's called as a semi-empirical method. It is based on quantum mechanics, but it takes a lot of data. That is why we call it as the semi-empirical. And then we have got Ab initio. This is a software called as Gaussian. We do most of the work here. This is a paid software. It costs about 2 lakhs. But we have free software electronic structure system. You can also take this software, read the documentation, do optimization, and find out so many properties of the molecule. These are all the properties pertaining to the molecular orbital theory, because it is done in the light of a quantum chemistry. It is very useful at some or other places there. So this is the underlying physical laws necessary for the mathematical of the whole chemistry and thus completely. And the difficulty is that exact application of these two equations must be complicated and soluble. That is why exact solution is not there. Everything is approximate, but we get very good results. That is why modeling has come into the fore, and it is going to exist. Here are the new latest interactions being studied. Cat-N interaction, pi-pi interaction, hydrogen bonding. Believe me, if there is no hydrogen bonding, no life will exist. So how much amount of energy it releases? 4 to 120 kilojoules per mole releases. Examples are some molecules, and that is this is a DNA. Then van der Waals forces we have been ignoring. It has got less than 5 kilojoules per mole, but it can be calculated using computational methods, hydrophobic and dopal interactions, pi-pi interactions and hydrogen bonding, and then these van der Waals. These all come under non-covalent interactions that are very much useful nowadays, and these are helpful in establishing the reactivity pattern. So ultimately, we would like to know how much reactive the molecule is. Then how much stable it is, then how much toxic it is for a human life. Up to this, chemoinformatics will do. Here, you can do bioinformatics. From chemo to bio, it's not much difficult because bioinformatics has a lot of database, huge database. We can help them overcome so many difficulties in the interaction pattern. This is a site freely available called as moleinspiration.com. You can draw a structure. You can see that as soon as you draw the structure, it can give you log P value, distribution coefficient, total polar surface area, number of atoms, molecular weight, ON bonds, OH and H bonds, because ON and OH and H bonds are very much. Then some rule of violations are there. The rule of violations is a Lipinski rule of violation. It is given here, number of atoms, molecular weight should not be greater than 5, n rotational bonds, drug kinase, all those things. So this is for the beginning. So I told you, for this molecule, the simplified molecular input line entry system comes like this. So instead of drawing a structure, if I write OC1, C and CC2, CC and CC, then I am right, because this is the converted binary structure of this. So this is called as the Smiles input. It calculates so many properties of that. And then with the in Google Play, you have got something called as Atom Drive. You can just start testing, so many compounds are there. You can find out so many properties. So these people have given a lot of database. The only thing is we have to observe what is useful and what is significant. And then this is the work which I did using the thiotepa as a molecule. This is a protein. It was published long back in, I think in 2011. So you can see that my drug is a thiotepa drug. It's a cyclopropene based derivative drug. It reacted with the ornithine, and then this is a protein. How it interacts in? Look at the distances: 2.215, 0.446, 1.91. Ordinary bond distance is between 1.2 to 1.6. So if you have that, this is CCR, CHR, C double bond C, or C triple bond C bond. But more than that, 2.2, 3.2, 2.9, they represent the hydrogen bonding or van der Waals bonding. So it gives an idea how this interaction. Not all chemicals go and bond in the covalent manner. Most chemicals bond in a non-covalent manner. That is why we have lot of side effects because of that. And then in another paper, we have used the same molecule for finding out the electronic distribution. So you can see this red part here. The red part is a chlorine derivative. So it has got, because of more electronegativity, it has got red part there. Least electron possessing place is blue. So we can get a map of electrostatic distribution of a molecule. This can help you deduce which part will be reactive. This part will be towards a positive part of the any molecule. This will be towards the negative part because this is blue, this is positive, this will be towards the negative part. So nucleophilic, electrophilic things will be there. Some free available softwares I have given. I use auxiliaries. They have given free softwares. So you can make use of them. And here is the very famous docking software. They give trial. And then this is an indigenously developed software by Queen University, India. And Universe, it is able to calculate the electrostatic forces. Also, it is able to do some small geometry optimizations. All others are from other different countries. This is the only indigenous software. Very good software in this. And then this is just a summary of what we have to do. Data mining means collect all the data you can. Write down in your notebook. Don't worry which one will be useful, which will not be used. Submit into a computer pod. Do a screening. The screening is just glancing. Okay, just glancing, and then do a conformational research. This is usually not done because here we use Ramachandran plot for finding out all conformers. Then do a pharmacophore research. Means already such derivatives, if they are useful in drug industry, you just call it as a pharmacophore research, and then do a structure activity relationship, QSAR, property prediction. And for this, you can use molecular mechanics, given some software there in the link, and that will be posted there. Then find out mode of interaction, very important part. Then non-covalent part is what you have to account nowadays. These contain hydrogen, electrostatic, van der Waals, and hydrophobic part. Some books which are very good. David Young's book is very useful. And then Chemoinformation edited by John Gastiger. Thomas Engel is also very good. This is a basic book available online. And if you look into this book, you will have more of chemistry than of computers. The only thing is we get fear by using this word computers. Computers are not much different. I mean, we just use them as a calculator. And then to understand the development over the particular 50 years, this particular book, Quantum, okay, written by Indian author Manjit Kumar, is a very good book. Very, very important. You can read it. It doesn't give you any equation. There is no single equation. It just gives you the debate between the Niels Bohr and Albert Einstein that has led to the development of so many advanced, including OLED, which we are having nowadays in our hand, organic light emitting diodes. How this came into being, this is going to inspire you to do some more work. And this is also a very good by Jim Al-Khalili called as Quantum, a guide for the perplexed. Most run away by hearing the quantum. We are not going to solve a single equation using quantum chemistry. We are going to calculate the property of every molecule by using the softwares. The work has been simplified. So I suggest all of you can read this book. It's very written in a very simple English by Manjit Kumar, and it gives various insight into the present scenario where we can take up research and all those things. That's all I have to say. Thank you for being with me and listening to this. If you have any question, you can please ask.